Anyway, no time for that. I've got a model to build. 2 weeks ago, I got pinged in 2 separate Discord servers, almost at the same time, about this kit. Honestly, it's really funny before even opening it. Tourist submarine. Stockton Rush really hated it when people called his passengers tourists. Which they were. Tourists. Nothing wrong with being a tourist, of course, but Rush had a real thing about that. Now, of course, there are those who question the morality of selling a kit like this, profiting off a disaster, so to speak. I mean, I have no issues with it. If this is immoral, then so's every for-profit documentary ever made about the disaster, and I suppose so is my entire YouTube career, given I somehow became YouTube's leading authority on the disaster for a few hours back in 2023. For those of you unaware, my rivetingly boring video about the disaster was the video which blew my channel up. Regardless, I indeed still have nothing more to say about the disaster itself. So this is going to be 20 minutes of me having a good old time making a model whilst being a wise guy. Besides, the makers of this kit saw a chance and took it. I feel Stockton Rush would love their entrepreneurial spirit, unhindered free market capitalism in action. As this kit arrived just a few days before the 3-year anniversary, I did have to rush it a little. But that just adds to the authenticity. Much like the real article, it is a very simple build, so that helped me out. So let's see what we have. Just 3 parts. It's a shame I couldn't relive the experience and glue on the ceiling ring to the hull, but hey, it is what it is. Now, this is a highly detailed resin-printed model. It does come with all the supports still attached, so we'll have to go about removing them. That is a contrast to the paper model of Alvin I still haven't got round to completing after 3 years. Keep an eye out in future videos, it'll appear in one eventually. Now, I keep saying I'll get a decent set of brushes and a painting stand and a decent airbrush, but I just never get around to spending the money. At some point, it's just pure waste. So, unlike some of those amazing model-making channels available on YouTube, I'll just be using cheap equipment and sometimes improvising my way through. Again, much like the real Titan, the priority here is to make it look good, not to have something that works. I did warn the folks in the modelling server I'm a member of about this video. Given that they are actual experts, I asked them for some tips and then promptly ignored them because they were either too expensive or too difficult. As you've probably guessed, I'll be making a lot of jokes today, but that one wasn't scripted. I accidentally knocked one of the lights off the gantry. A gantry which, by the way, is not visible in most of the Oceangate promotional images, but it was there during dives. Anyway, my little slip-up there turned out to be historically accurate, as Oceangate managed to bonk instruments off this gantry on at least one occasion. No problem for me, just glued it back on. After that, we want to make sure we sand the carbon fibre hull to get a really good finish. Don't worry about damaging it or taking measurements or anything, just sand away, go crazy, take off as much off the top as you like. For a nice visual reference, here is a sample of Inspec carbon fibre. It's probably much stiffer than many of you imagine. I dare you to tell me again carbon fibre isn't strong enough to be used in compression. And if you want to join the dozens of people who've called me an idiot because the stresses are different at 4 kilometres under the sea, it's time for you to learn the difference between force and stress. The Titan wasn't made of Inspec carbon fibre though. It was made of this. So perhaps these images provide a better visual reference for your model. Back in my original video, I mistook an earlier version of the craft for the one that imploded. The imploded version had these shrouds covering the thrusters, which, to be fair, were an absolute improvement as they covered the electrical cables and reduced the entanglement hazard. I am glad the thrusters don't require attaching, it looks like it'd be really easy to glue one on backwards. Likewise, there's no risk of any syntactic foam just randomly falling off. Okay, with the painting complete, I left it out to dry. I actually kind of forgot about it and left it all night on my driveway in the cold. Probably be fine. We have the option to present this with the hatch open or closed. We'll leave it open today. I know I'm just maybe model making here, but just looking at that huge mating surface is giving me flashbacks. Again, it's a benefit of having a physical model. They're right here to see them. Here, let's flash up some footage of the hatch being opened on a moving boat on the surface. Steel carabiner right next to it, wielded by someone exerting significant force. Here's a time-lapse of people wandering around everywhere right next to the exposed mating surfaces. Even worse, here they are, opening it on the little floaty platform thing whilst rocking about everywhere. Sorry, just excuse me 1 second. Right, sorry about that. Why is this horrible? You scratch or deform that face and you may compromise the entire pressure seal. I don't think I've ever seen a protective cover on the hatch faces in any footage. For context, oil rig crews take significantly more care of the metal-to-metal seals on drill pipe. Anyway, this is not in the spirit of Oceangate. I'm getting too technical. Let's glue our uncertified viewport into place. And usually for model making, I'll be using epoxy resin as the adhesive. Just guess the mixture ratio. Don't worry about dust or entrained air or anything like that. Just mix it up and slather it right on. There's actually a slight inaccuracy with the kit here. The viewport should have a flat internal face to give the passengers, astronauts, mission specialists, just stick with passengers, a better and less distorted view. Interestingly, that flat rear face may actually help focus sunlight to a spot inside the sealed vessel. And in the exact words of Mr. Rush, quote, "can light stuff on fire," end quote. Okay, I have to keep breaking character in this video because I kept just discovering things. Here is an American Society of Mechanical Engineers compliant viewport. Here's the one on the Titan, at different heights above a plane with a sunlight above them. Even with this basic simulation in Blender, the Titan viewport visibly focuses the light towards a point. Are we maybe thinking Stockton logged this issue because it actually did set something on fire? Right, anyway, let's fit the hatch. Oh, dropped it. Never mind, I guess we'll just pick it up and put it right back on. I'm sure it'll be fine. Alright, interior. Let's try and get this thing up to industry standards, just for the fun of it. Let's add in some of the bits and pieces you'd find in the crew compartment of every other DSV ever built. Seats, obviously. Suppose the pilot would probably want to sit here in front of the screen. You'd even have your second crew member in front of the viewport just in case the monitor failed. Not saying the passengers couldn't unstrap and move around on the bottom, but imagine just sitting on the hard floor on a choppy sea like this. Fire extinguishers, obviously. 3-ring binders with operating and emergency procedures, obviously. And emergency breathing apparatus, quickly accessible. Not the crappy smoke hoods you find on oil platforms that might filter out smoke for 10 minutes. Accessible gas tanks that let everyone breathe if the primary air source is lost for whatever reason. You'd probably actually have rebreathers as well. Breaker panels. I mean, we'll come back to Russia's glorious achievement, the single physical button in the cabin, in a second. But if you have an electrical fault that starts a fire, like the Titan did on a dive in 2018, you're going to want to shut it off ASAP, hence physical breakers. On that topic, running everything off a single bus bar would be preposterous. Having a battery fail or something that knocks off the power and you've lost everything. At least have a minimal emergency circuit. So we'll add a couple of independent switches to enable both circuits. As much as your controls and readouts being a couple of flat-screen monitors makes me uncomfortable, SpaceX have demonstrated success with that in their Dragon spacecraft, which, by the way, does still have physical breakers. The difference being that is entirely controllable from the ground. So if we lose power, we still want some physical backups. Mechanical depth gauge and independent oxygen and CO2 readout gauges seem sensible. And we add in an underwater telephone to speak to the surface crew. Oh, and obviously physical controls for the pilot. You can leave the game controller for the passengers to have a turn if you want. Though, back here in the real world now, apparently one of them actually crashed the craft into a rock when it was their turn to play. So, I don't know, maybe think about that a little. Actually, Alex, in editing here, I did think about it a little. If it was me, I'd have a controller that wasn't actually plugged in to hand over to any of the special little guys on board who wanted to have a go at being a pilot. I just wouldn't tell them it wasn't plugged in, just let them think they're in control for a while. The actual Titan did have the weight releases, computers, breathing gas, and a few other supplies behind hatches at the back and in the floor. But here I've just added in a few things I'd expect to see in an actual passenger cabin. But all those would cost an awful lot of money. I mean, what does a fire extinguisher cost? £50? I certainly don't have that sort of money. So, out they go. Apart from the controller, that can stay. Back to the Titan as Stockton Rush intended it. Actually, a really cool fact about the controller. You see this? It's a military robot from the 2000s. Really nice bit of kit. Incredibly useful. Unlike those stupid human-shaped robots Stockton Rush adjacent types are desperately trying to push into the world. Zach Hazard bought one recently, and I was chatting to him about it. They shipped with the same controller as the Titan. Obviously, the robot would also be controlled via a secondary interface if necessary, and obviously use the wired version. But when you see the recruitment PR story of, you can use a game controller in the military, this is the kind of actually sensible and safe use case we're talking about. Now, there's a hilarious mod for the game Terraria where every second there's a 1 in 10,000 chance of this happening. That reminds me of the Titan. Things are usually fine and then BOOM! So, Withered Foxy goes on the main monitor to embody the spirit of this vessel. Honestly, not much to do with the interior. Couple of monitors here so Rush could monitor his company's valuation plummeting in real time. Oh, and of course the pee bottle. Let's put a little privacy curtain in. I suppose we should paint the one and only button. There we go. You know, come to think of it, there was one switch, and Rush still managed to get that wrong. If someone slipped and accidentally pressed that, would everything just turn off? And to finish off our minimalist interior design project, we'll etch a little crack in the pressure hull. Right here in the 9 o'clock position. Alright, decals. Just a couple to apply here. What an unimaginative corporate logo. Oversimplified, just like the craft itself. And to round things off, ballast weights. Just scrap iron, that's fine. Mass is mass, it's getting left behind. What wouldn't be fine would be if it kept failing to drop. Or if the variable ballast tank on the launch platform failed on the surface and your DSV got stuck in this orientation and kept getting slammed into the launch platform by waves for an hour. Here's how that would look from inside. Hypothetically, of course. Sure you don't want those seats? Let's add in Stockton Rush being strangled by his head of marine operations. And let's pop a senior designer outside too. Alright, I've done nothing but joke around today. Normally I include a list of sources with my videos in the description. This one has a list of jokes I've made with their timestamps and a link to the official record of the real-life incident I was referring to. Now, I made a lot of effort on this, and it is actually a really nice model, really good detail on it, but it doesn't belong in my office in this state. So, to finish it off, obviously, the Titan cannot be classified as a proper DSV as such. And anyone decrying the use of certified DSVs for scientific purposes, or indeed certified submersible vessels for shallower tourist dives, is sorely misinformed. Such opinions are akin to calling for the abandonment of Project Artemis because Mike Hughes pancaked himself into the desert floor. When I made my first video on this topic, I mentioned the one DSV I had a direct link to, the limiting factor. I helped process the geological data from it during my time at the British Geological Survey. 2 years ago, I was absolutely delighted to hear that the researcher I worked with on the project has dived on the vessel, which is now called the Bacanawa. I say worked with, but I was a very, very minor side player in the project. They were infinitely more qualified and involved than I ever was. As for me, though, well, I haven't really been involved directly with marine engineering for a few years now. I have spent 4 years working with offshore wind, but only from a data science perspective. I have, however, started scuba diving again. Here I am on a dive a couple of weeks ago in Cyprus. Perversely, the Oceangate fiasco, followed by a lot of the subsequent reading I did, made me realise I needed to get back into it because the ocean's just too damn interesting. I don't know where my career will take me in the future. I may end up working with scientific marine data again one day. But for now, I enjoy the oceans as a tourist. As for everyone else on Earth, I like to believe Stockton Rush's one positive impact on the world was to teach many of us the difference between certification and regulation. No matter your political beliefs or preconceptions, I hope before doing something risky, especially with the advent of a lot of questionable technology on the horizon, people now have a greater tendency not to ask, is this legal, but instead to ask, is this safe? Thank you very much for watching.